Random Thoughts. In this video, we are going to continue reading parts of Richard Burton's book, First Steps in East Africa, Exploration of Harar. And in these parts, we are reading about the actual attack that happened on Richard Burton while he was in Berbera. And in the last video, him and Speck and Herne managed to escape out of the tent where they thought they were going to be trapped, and maybe that was going to be their end. And then he tells us that when they rush out, the people who were attacking them basically ran away, and that gave them an opportunity to, of course, escape. Now, this is a book that was published in 1850s. I need to point that out. And this is a book where Richard Burton tells us about his journey from Aden all the way to Zeila, and then all the way to Harar, and then he comes to Berbera. And when he arrives at Berbera, that's where he meets these other three British officers, that is Speck, Herne, and Stroyan, who were waiting for him there, and they had kind of like a bigger team. And it's while he's moving with them in Berbera that they are attacked at night, that the night is of the 19th of April, 1855. In the previous video, we had reached a point where they've managed to escape from the tent and these people have run away. Now we want to see what happens after that. And this is what he says. After breaking through the mob at the tent entrance, imagining that I saw the form of Lieutenant Stroyan laying upon the sand, I cut my way towards it amongst a dozen Somal whose war clubs worked without mercy, while the Balyus, who was violently pushing me out of the fray, rendered the strokes of my sabre uncertain. So he's gotten out of the tent, this Richard Burton, and he sees Stroyan lying on the ground. And he tries to go there and see what's happening with him. And of course, there's all these attacks coming towards him. And then there's this Balyus, and it seems, I think he does describe him as a huge guy, and he's a guy who came with them from Aden. And seems like he was very efficient and he's fighting, but he complicates Sir Richard Burton's blows because he needs to be very careful not to hit him, and Balyus is trying to help him to push him out of danger. Basically, there is a lot of confusion happening here. This individual was cool and collected, though incapacitated by a sore right thumb from using the spear. He did not shun danger and passed unhurt through the midst of the enemy. His efforts, however, only illustrated the venerable adage, "Defend me from my friends." So there are these people fighting. Balyus is fighting very well, but then he's fighting people who are actually their allies. Initially they were friends, and I think that's why he says, defend me from my friends. Like, these are people he thought that they were not going to be enemies, but he's fighting them in this environment at night. It's early in the morning though. I turned to cut him down. He cried out in alarm. The well-known voice caused an instant hesitation. At the moment, a spearman stepped forward, left his javelin in my mouth, and retired before he could be punished. So there's this guy they are fighting, him and Balyus, and this is a guy they knew him. And Richard Burton kind of like hit him. And the guy, of course, cries out, and Richard Burton knows him. He knows his voice, and for a moment he hesitates because this is a guy he knew, and maybe they were very friendly. And in that moment, somebody else comes and spears him in the mouth. I don't know, maybe that was a terrible scene, I think I can imagine. And then this guy who spears him in the mouth escapes. He runs away before he's hurt. Escaping by a miracle, I sought some support. Many of our Somal and servants lurking in the darkness offered to advance, but tailed off to a man as we approached the foe. Presently the Balyus reappeared and led me towards the place where he believed my three comrades had taken refuge. So Balyus seems like took charge of the situation, and he did a lot of work, seems like. I followed him, sending the only man that showed presence of mind, one Golab of the Yusuf tribe, to bring back the antithorant craft from the spit into the center of the harbor. So he sent somebody to go and bring the ship, so they escaped. So because it was necessary for them to get out of that place as fast as they could. Again, losing the Balyus in the darkness, I spent the interval before dawn wandering in search of my comrades and lying down when overwhelmed with faintness and pain. As the day broke, with my remaining strength, I reached the head of the creek, was carried into the vessel, and persuaded the crew to arm themselves and visit the scene of our disasters. So he manages to move around. This is very early in the morning. He's in pain, But then finally he manages to get to the near the ship and is carried and is put inside. But they still want to maybe go check their camp. He continued to say, meanwhile, Lieutenant Herne, who had closely followed me, fell back using the butt end of his discharged six holster upon the hard heads around him. In so doing, he came upon a dozen men who, though they loudly vociferated, kill the Franks who are killing the Somal, allowed him to pass uninjured. Now, this is a very interesting scene. These people are basically at this point at the mercies of the people who attacked them. But it seems like these people are not really interested in finishing them off, because he talks of Lieutenant Herne moving, and these people they are shouting about having him finished, but they are not doing anything. So it seems to me like they were not really interested in really killing them per se. I think there was something else going on. I don't know what it was. He continued to say, he then sought his comrades in the empty huts of the town, and at early dawn we joined by the Balius, who was similarly employed. When day broke, he sent a Negro to stop the native craft, which was apparently sailing out of the harbour, and in due time came on board. With the exception of sundry stiff blows with the war club, Lieutenant Herne had the fortune to escape unhurt. So finally, seems like all these people are getting in the ship, and we're going to find out what happens next. Those are my random thoughts.